Hello and welcome to Weekend Investing Daily Bites. We are shooting episode number 150. So we've come a long way since I think May when we started, and we already got 150 episodes here. It's been a great learning journey for me and my team as we go through each of these topics, and I hope some learnings have also been passed on to the viewers. Today we are going to discuss about whether buy and hold still works. uh, there is no clear cut answer, but we will try to analyze it from our lens, from a lens of momentum investing and from a lens of having a strategy and a plan. Let's take a look at the markets first. So today the markets continued the bounce from yesterday, although for most part of the market time the Nifty was sluggish, but in the end, last 60 to 90 minutes, both Nifty and Bank Nifty picked up, and Nifty closed a percent up, and Bank Nifty closed 1.2% up. PSU banks are still sluggish as we see here. PSU banks did not make any net gains. FMCG stocks were weak. Commodities and pharma, along with metals and realty, were the ones that were running. So, largely in the 2 days of bounce, significant part of the loss that had occurred on Friday and Monday has been covered. Not entirely though. The week is still red on many sectors. However, IT has been the champion here, where the last 1 week also the gains have been at plus 3.5%, and of course that's the only one, or maybe along with pharma and metals, where the month is also green here. So overall, cannot complain about the bounce. Whether again this bounce will continue or not is yet to be seen. For FII selling is still continuing. It is also holiday season, so their entire activity may go down in the next few days. Retail seems to be still buying on dips, so that's a good sign. And the overseas cues from other markets are also reasonably stable as of now. The main fear that had overcome the markets about Omicron and Europe closing down seems to have ebbed a little bit, but then every day there can be a new news that can trigger something. In terms of the indices, small caps were robust today throughout the day, up 1.25%, and mid and small cap index was also up 1.25%. So some recovery on the lost ground. Last 1 week, both have lost about 4% overall. Weekend investing, small cases also recovered partly. MI20, MI ATH2, MI All Cap, MI35, MIATH, all recovering to 2%, 2 to 2.5%. MI25, MI30 being a little sluggish, below 1%, but overall a decent recovery on many of them. Let's take a look at the so this is an announcement that we've made yesterday, that we have coming out with a brand new small case. It will be called MI Evergreen. The launch will happen in the next week, and it's going to be a you can say a culmination of all our experience in the last many years of various strategies, and we've tried to combine that with the best practices of having the large caps or the very liquid stocks in the portfolio, along with the protection and hedge of gold. And I'll have more content on this in coming days, so stay tuned. But this is something that I really feel very confident about, that in the next year or so, I think this is going to be our primary sort of strategy, which will be a must-have in every portfolio. So wait for more details, and I'm very excited about this. So does buy and hold work anymore? So I tweeted a chart of Xerox Holdings, a very old company listed on the NYSE. And this is let me see if I have a 50-year chart here. Yeah. So this is a chart of last 50 years. Stock going from 40 in late 60s down towards 10 or 12. And then from 10, after 3 decades of falling from 40, going to 80, coming back to 10, then from 10 it went to about 180, 170, so almost 17 bagger in just span of maybe a decade, and then giving it all back up and just going sideways post that. Of course, a lot of disruption happening in that industry. Xerox was famous for its machines for photocopy, etc. And the chart and the theme kind of highlights that nothing will sort of remain forever. The earlier concepts of buy and forget, they seem to be becoming less lesser of a probability of success than they were before. In 30-40 years back, there were like a handful of companies and you could just invest and sleep, and that would be the end of it. But I think the world is changing, and world is changing very, very dramatically. So our sort of approach towards this is that it's a disruptive world out there, as you are seeing, whether it is example of Xerox, whether it is example of Nokia when smartphones came out, whether even Apple, after the dot-com bust, almost losing 90% value. And within our domestic markets also, for instance, Unitech in 2005, 6, 7 was the leading developer, crashed and burnt. IVRCL was a leading highway operator, crashed and burnt. Yes Bank, one of the prominent banks. So it's a very disruptive world out there. Of course, there are success stories as well, and you can say that I'm trying to pinpoint or be selective about the examples. But what I'm trying to suggest is that even if buy and hold works, it will need to be constantly evaluated and monitored. You cannot buy and sleep. So the idea is that, and of course, this is another thing that I want to point out, is that the average age of a corporation has been shrinking. This chart is showing you that what was earlier a 30-year average age of a S&P 500 corporation is now down in the high teens. So the disruption is such that corporations don't last that long, or they get merged or acquired or something like that, or they get totally comparatively booted out of the marketplace. So while there are a lot of gurus who will say just buy and sleep for 10 years, buy and sleep for 20 years, but that's not really an easy way to do it, even if it works. In the age of a very quick dissemination of information, the moves have become faster, and the disruption has become faster. Next is that the capital, which was used to be scarce, seems to be abundantly available now. And you are able to see this in the new age companies. Just today I was tweeting about Razorpay. The company was declared as a unicorn, $1 billion valuation, just in October 2020. And within the next 14 months, it is now being valued at $7.5 billion. So the pace at which the change is happening and the capital is available is just enormous. And anything, and everything can happen in a very short period of time. The capital cost has plummeted, with interest rates plummeting all over the world. So Japan has been a carry currency for very long, but now even US is a carry currency, where you can borrow in US and invest elsewhere, at a very, very low cost. Research also is abundantly available. I mean, earlier, with research being some sort of a hurdle, it used to take time for the common person to come to know about maybe a good research about a company, or maybe the inside information was not so easy to percolate out. But now, with the internet and social media percolating, everything is more or less instantly available to everybody. Although there is still privileged information in the system. However, I mean, it's a lot more porous now, and hence that uh, sort of edge that you could have for long periods of time is not so much there. Then we also look at historical benchmarks. A lot of people look at price earnings ratio, price to sales, all those kind of ratios are there. But we also need to see that the entire environment has changed. Let me just take you to a chart of this is a chart from niftyperatio.com. This is a very good website which plots the charts. The blue line is plotting the price to equity ratio, price to earnings ratio, P ratio, and the red line is the Nifty chart. So you can see here that in the earlier decade of 2000 to 2010, for instance, the market highs used to be, P ratios of 20, 25, 28, and the market lows used to coincide with P ratios of 10, 11, 12, 10 here. So there was a sort of a range which was a guiding range that market is going above 20, P ratio is getting expensive, it's coming below 12, 13 is getting cheap. And just see how the next decade, let's say 2011 to 2021 has panned out, where on the higher side we are hitting 30 and 42 on the P ratios, and on the lower side we are not coming below 18 and 17 even at the worst of crashes. So the entire dynamics of such modeling has changed. What used to be a good buy at 12 P ratio, for instance, is no longer available. And in fact, somebody who had modeled, I want to buy at 12 P ratio, he would have been sitting for last 12 years waiting for that, and it is not coming. Right? Similarly, for other ratios as well, whether it is price to book, price to sales, all these kind of historical benchmarks are getting broken. And other commodities also, Dow to crude to gold, all benchmarks are getting broken because it's a very different kind of a world out there. Also, what needs to be seen is that the monetary environment is changing. So what we are seeing here is that this is the money supply. So 75% of the money supply, and this is on US terms, everything, all data is available for US mostly. So 75% of money supply was added in just the last 14 years, and the Fed has existed for more than 100 years now. So this is the pace of the money printing, so as to say, which is happening. So if the base of the money is going up so dramatically, everything will rise. As the tide rises, everything will rise. So while we may feel happy that our portfolio has gone up by so and so percent, actually the money value is depreciating very fast, and hence a nominal increase in value of assets is not really a good benchmark to assess whether the performance is good or not. It's only the real performance, once you factor in for the monetary base expansion, is where you can really say whether you are creating alpha or not. So this is something that has really dramatically changed in the last 14 years, where the pace has picked up. And you can see from COVID, just from COVID pandemic point, from March 2020, it has gone up dramatically here, the money supply. So this is something that one needs to sort of take into account. And of course, I've already talked about cheap money being at disposal. So a lot is changing in the world. And that is causing all kinds of disruptions and uncertainties, likes of which we have never seen in the last 100 years. So you need to have a strategy that can take. How will you get out? What is your plan of exit? What will you do if the good quality stocks start to the valuation starts to change on that? I mean, every good quality stock right now is at 70, 80, 90 PE, and if the earnings don't catch up in the next 2, 3, 4 years, some global event can cause them to come down 50 to 60, 70%. How do you deal with that situation? That is the question, and hence my suggestion is that buy and hold can only work if you have a strategy or a plan around it. Always have a exit strategy in place. Preferable, in case you don't have a plan, do not venture into such frothy markets without a plan. Follow some established strategies, professionals. Go with mutual funds, go with PMSs, whoever, small cases, whoever may have seen several of these ups and downs in their professional careers. Take their advice. Or if you wish to go yourself, make sure that you have a framework around your investing. Please don't do an ad hoc thing and have a very painful experience later on. This is my only small suggestion. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in another one. Thank you. Bye.